So as I'm navigating with these 3 clients that are co-hosts, it went to something that you mentioned. And so let's make it a learning point for the listener right now. I would say I need you to be at a level 6 or level 7. Level 5 is the normal range that most people in this world are at. Level 2 is Eeyore. Level 2 is like, and level 5, if you just do level 5, it's going to probably come across closer to Eeyore. It's going to come down a level or 2. So it'll sound like a 3.
Yeah.
So I always mentioned like one of them went overboard. Ben, he went overboard, and he had a couple of episodes where I listened to, and he was an 11 or a 10 probably. And I'm like, no, you don't have to sound completely fake. And like you don't have to sound like this completely fake person. It's got to be you, but it's got to be above your average. It has to be slightly above. So they did pretty well after a while. Tell me, like, have you ever heard it like that? Because I'm hearing you say you got to come with the energy, you got to come with the voice inflections. Have you ever heard of like bring this certain level so that it sounds like this level?
I've never used numbers, but kind of with the boo-wah voice, I would always think I have to be more cheerful in my voice than I would usually be. And it's in the voice that matters for the podcast in terms of the sound. So you don't have to look cheerful, but your voice has to sound more cheerful than you would otherwise be, with the smile in the voice, which I'm sure you can now hear because I'm putting little tiny chuckles in there, which is one trick, but don't overdo it because it gets really annoying. But once you start smiling, you can hear the smile in the voice. And the other trick that I learned for doing different voices was that I couldn't do one of the voices if I didn't change my body shape.
Tell me about that.
Well, if I'm speaking Boo-wah the blue dog is a blue cartoon dog, and it's my voice and it's me, and Boo-wah is me and I am Boo-wah, and it's basically the same thing. So I just talk like this and I feel reasonably cheerful and it sounds fine. Hello, children, lovely to be here. But then if I do Daddy Koala, who was this small yellow koala who did the gardening, and he was terribly cheerful, and he spoke like this, and you could see that I've just changed my body form with a little rounded arm so that I sound more like the Daddy Koala that I want to be. And then if I do the Grandpa Koala, I scrunch myself up in a little ball and I wave my arms around a little bit like this, and I sound like an old man. And it's the body shape that changes the voice.
Hey, that brings us to something interesting. That brings us to something else that's interesting. For me, for the longest time, I always would sit when I was podcasting, especially because my podcast days were several hours. That's part of the reason. The second part of the reason, I didn't freaking have a standing desk. So I just didn't have one. And then I listened to another podcast influencer talking about how you come out with better energy when you stand up. And that became something that I wanted to do. Oh, now he's standing.
So now have I got more energy? Is this more energy, more fun? It is, isn't it?
Probably. My arms around. Probably. But I think it's something that the listener can adopt. Is that if our shoulders are like rolled forward, or if we are closing up our diaphragm by like leaning forward, we're going to sound a certain way. And you mentioned that because you purposely lift up your shoulders, you hunch, you get bigger, you make your arms look round, depending on one of those, just the 3 voices that you mentioned right now. So I think it's like a takeaway for the listener to say, what is my posture like? What's in front of me? My microphone.
Huge.
Who am I thinking about? Am I having this? Do I need a smiley face in front of me? Do I need a picture of my perfect avatar in front of me? Do I need to think about my avatar? Do I need to think about like a group of people? And then what's my posture? Do I use my hands when I'm explaining things? Even though a lot of people can't hear me, do I use the hands to explain things? Am I feeling comfortable in my own space? I think that's really beautiful. And you were able to use it as a voice actor in order to get a different sound. And I think that the listener who's a podcaster can utilize their body language and their body positioning, their posture, to get a different sound. If they want to sound happier, and more boisterous, maybe they will open up their chest or lift up their diaphragm or whatever it is. I think that this is a cool, interesting thing to kind of consider and think about. I want to ask you. Then I got a question. You say this, and then I got a question.
You've made a huge point, and you've brought it all together incredibly well. And I would just say that sounded really complicated, but it's really important to remember that you just need to try lots of things out, figure out what works for you, and then it becomes really simple. Figuring it out takes time. You need to record yourself. You need to watch yourself back. That can be painful. Force yourself to do it. Figure out what works for you in terms of body posture, waving your arms around, being excessively cheerful. Once you've nailed it, it becomes so natural.